The fallout from the Biden-Trump debate, the Dems plan to attack Trump on his strongest issue. Biden knocks Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. SCOTUS got busy at the end of its current term, and there were many major decisions. This is Dr. David D. Schein for the special edition of Saving America with our weekly update. Here are some top stories from the last week. The fallout from the Biden-Trump debate has continued to cascade. Biden's performance was terrible. 70% of the population thinks so, and that includes 70% of the people self-identifying as Democrats. Yeah, it's in terms of public support for Biden, it's pretty much ended. He did indeed look like someone not just with periodic dementia attacks, but in a more advanced stage of dementia. Again, there's nothing happy about this, but it does seem to be a situation that has been hidden from the American people by the Democratic administration and by the slopstream media. Democrat Lloyd Doggett of Texas was the first office holder to openly call for Biden to step down. And on the other hand, reportedly, his family is still supporting his run, especially Hunter. Of course, despite claims to the contrary, I'm sure Biden was still in office, he would pardon his son, who has already one conviction and is likely to have two separate convictions based on news reports of his upcoming second trial. Now, I know, of course, that Biden has claimed that he will not pardon Hunter. I don't believe him. I think he will pardon Hunter between Election Day, November 5th, and Inauguration Day, January 20th. So it'll be interesting to see. Of course, the classic problem for the Democrats is the Kamala problem. She is the sitting VP, so if the 25th Amendment takes out Biden, she automatically takes over. Based on reports, if Biden pulls out, she would also get his campaign chest, which is substantial. Bumping the unpopular VP would unquestionably cost women and minority votes. Biden is already losing minority support in droves. The Dems cannot afford to give up more. So who does the slopstream media suggest we should run? Often mentioned is the loser communist clown Gavin Newsom. He has destroyed California. Why would anyone want him to have more responsibility? He needs to be thrown out of California to save the state. In the meantime, it's a state that's hemorrhaging taxpayers and money by the billions. My favorite suggestion, on the other hand, is Michelle Obama. This woman is a clear-cut communist. She is probably to the left of Newsom, so she is popular with a certain swath of the population. But that is now. Run her and start asking hard questions, and she will be out of her element in a heartbeat. When she is exposed for the extreme leftist that she is, I think most Americans will take a pass in a hurry. Remember, folks, the number one issue in this election is the economy. Speaking of the economy, the Dems plan to attack Trump on his strongest issue, which has been exposed in a weird way because they produced something called the 16 Nobel Prize winning economists say Trump would make inflation worse. Well, first of all, Trump has the advantage of having demonstrated that inflation was low during his 4 years. Facts don't lie even for economists. Secondly, when the economists involved are examined, they are in the Dem camp. A Fox News digital review of the letter's Nobel Prize winning signatories shows political donations to President Biden's 2020 and 2024 campaigns. The so-called economists donated tens of thousands of dollars to other Democrat candidates as well, and signed previous letters supporting Biden's agenda, including attacking Trump. To save time, here are just two examples. Economist Joseph Stiglitz, the Columbia University professor, and he is reportedly the one who spearheaded this 16 Nobel Prize letter. He has donated over $90,000 to Democrat candidates from 2020 2004 to 2020, according to Federal Election Commission records. And how about Georgetown University professor George Akerlof, who is married to Biden's Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen? Yeah, he donated $25,000 to Biden Victory Fund and maxed out as a donor in 2020, giving the campaign $5,600. The stories are similar for the others who signed this so-called important letter. Frankly, speaking as a university professor, who can make such generous donations? Where did all of that cash come from? There's some interesting stuff going on over there, but unfortunately, that's not being shared with yours truly. Third, this is very important. Sadly, like many prizes, from the Academy Awards to beauty pageants and to the Nobel Prize itself, these have turned into woke operations where the prizes are often meaningless to most of us. A classic example was awarding Barack Obama the Peace Prize in 2009 for some vague international accomplishments. Look, he had just been elected. He was still finding his way around the White House, as they say, finding his way to the bathroom. And in fact, during his 8 years in office, little was accomplished. In fact, the United States set a record as the slowest recovery from a recession in the history of American economics. So to award this fellow a Peace Prize for any point in his administration was silly and clearly a woke decision. Biden's failed Gaza pier was removed due to weather. So Biden, to try and curry some favor with Muslim supporters, call those voters in the United States, tries to play the middle as Israel deals with the terrorists in Gaza. His administration built a $230 million pier to deliver humanitarian supplies to civilians in Gaza. There was never an explanation as to how they are going to keep the aid out of the hands of the Hamas terrorists, who are between just about everything in that aid. In any event, storms have kept the pier from operating properly. Other problems prevented aid from being delivered, even if it did get on shore. Now the pier is being taken down. Another Biden failure, and of course, $250 million of American money thrown down the toilet. In another pathetic comment, Biden knocks Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. Many liberals joined Biden in their hypocritical commentary on the recent SCOTUS ruling granting a former president immunity for the official acts while they're in office. This is very specific. There's also possible conditional immunity for acts that could be considered official that are on the periphery of the presidential authority. Now, the irony of these protests is that if there was ever a president who needed some protection from lawsuits accusing him of abusing the presidency and his prior official positions, it's Biden. In the past, despite political differences, no party has ever gone after the other party the way Biden's puppet masters have gone after Trump, and also gone after his key supporters. And we've all seen what's happened from coast to coast against attorneys and campaign consultants and others who have supported Trump. This is a mess, folks, and it's not right. In fact, Steve Bannon is now serving a 4-month term in federal prison for refusing a congressional subpoena. Hey, will Merrick Garland join him? Garland has refused a congressional subpoena. Yes. Where's his jail sentence? Where's his jail cell? I'm waiting. One of my favorite local headlines from the past week, Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, one of the dumbest people I've ever seen in public office, perhaps with the exception of Kamala Harris, she's given a $500 ethics fine. Well, what did she do? From her official podium, she supports the opponent to the current sitting Harris County Attorney General, Kim Hogg. This is an ethics violation for a person in office to endorse a person, particularly saying it from when she did it. So I'm sad that this is not more of a penalty than it is. but she has been a disgrace to that position, and I'm hoping there will be a sense of sanity here in Harris County, Texas, at some point. The Supreme Court strikes a blow for business versus the administrative state. SCOTUS got busy at the end of its current term, and there were many major decisions. We spoke above about the ruling on presidential immunity. That was probably number one. The other big case was striking down of the Chevron doctrine. For a business in America, dealing with administrative agencies can be very challenging. The agencies create the rules, enforce the rules, and then their paid employees adjudicate disputes over possible violations of the agency rules. If a business is unhappy with the outcome, after exhausting all the internal steps, it can go to court. This is an extremely costly and time-consuming process. Most small and even fairly large businesses cannot afford to fight. Even if the businesses can get to court, the battle's not over. The reason is something called the Chevron doctrine. This is a result of a SCOTUS ruling in 1984 in the case of Chevron versus the Natural Resources Defense Council. The court held in that case that it was appropriate for the courts to defer to the expertise of the government agency when facing an appeal of an agency decision. This is the infamous placing your thumb on the scales of justice, and it was never right. It should never have happened. That's what we call judge-created law. Fortunately, in a massive change in direction by a 6-3 decision, the conservative majority of the Supreme Court ruled in Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimundo, Secretary of Commerce et al. And the justices voted in favor of striking down Chevron. Frankly, I knew this was coming for a while, and it couldn't happen too soon. Chief Justice John Roberts stating, regarding the majority opinion, courts must exercise their independent judgment in deciding whether an agency has acted within its statutory authority. The agency flunkies are not trained to make those statutory interpretations. So Roberts, of course, didn't use the term flunky, but that was the implication. Paired with this decision, that said someone accused of a serious charge like fraud was entitled to a jury trial. This would mean the administrative agency would not have the last word. It used to be if you were in front of the Securities and Exchange Commission, you didn't have an opportunity to have a jury trial, and the courts have corrected that concern on constitutional grounds. And the EPA, and I want to point out, we have accomplished a massive amount since Nixon signed the Environmental Protection Act in 1970. That act also created the Environmental Protection Agency. And in the early going, we helped to clean up the water in this country, clean up the air, clean up solid waste disposal, deal better with toxins. So a lot has been accomplished in America. We're on the right track. We're not done yet, but we've made good progress. On the other hand, as predictable, these administrative agencies keep adding people, passing regulations, and rolling along and accountable apparently to no one. The current Supreme Court is reining that in. And in an a recent ruling called the Good Neighbor ruling, the feds have ordered that the states, not the EPA, have control of pollution within their borders. While the whack liberals enjoy jumping on the conservative-dominated Supreme Court, they overlook rulings that favor their side. SCOTUS allowed emergency abortions in Idaho. It does not block an Illinois law to ban what are called assault weapons like the AR-15. And as noted above, the presidential immunity is a limited ruling, and it cuts both ways. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite platform and tune in again.